Make we talk about ethics, truth over aesthetics. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. Make we talk about ethics, truth over aesthetics. Lord jeez, bills to pay, food for buy, and watching all it empty. Oh, wait, drop 100 US. Those that help, how much for do? You know what?
Yo, bro, it's my money. I think you might have drop out and pack there or something,
Here you go. It's the right thing to do. Make we talk about ethics, truth over aesthetics. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. Make we talk about ethics.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. I am Aaron Henry. This is Brother Innocent.
I'm Shanti.
I'm Lazarus Castro. And I'm Sylvester Redikov. So first off, you all need to know what is ethics.
So, ethics. So, ethics is like invisible book that we carry around in our heads or in our hearts. It basically tells us or helps us to decide what is right from what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, what is fair and unfair. Right? So it gives us that moral compass.
Okay, so in the first episode, we'll be speaking on what is a meta-ethical theory.
Metaethics is a branch of ethics that studies the nature, meaning, and foundation of morality itself. By asking whether moral values are objective or subjective, how does moral language work, and whether moral claims can be true or false. Metaethics covers multiple theories. One of them is moral realism. Moral realism is a metaethical theory because it does not tell us which actions are right or wrong, but instead it examines the language, nature, foundation of morality itself. By saying that moral facts exist independently of human perception, belief, opinion, culture, or emotion. Moral realism asserts that reality is objective in the same way that physical facts are. For instance, murder is wrong regardless of human perception, culture, and so on.
Another theory is moral subjectivism and sentimentalism. Moral subjectivism and sentimentalism are closely related, often overlapping views that ground morality in human emotion rather than reason or objective facts. Sentimentalism argues that our emotional responses define moral distinction, with key thinkers including Hume and Smith. The example that I can give on this point is my personal experience as a religious, seeing the vulnerable, the disabled children who cannot feed themselves, who can help themselves. Then I come forward to help them by feeding them, by cleaning them, and helping in the way that they can be happy. In this sense, the immediate emotional responses is admirable and gratitude, because I am serving this vulnerable, I'm serving the poor people. According to sentimentalism, it is precisely this sentiment of approval that makes us call the act morally good. Similarly, someone who betrays a close friend for money. At times we feel resentment because the act that is being done is not right. That emotional reaction of disapproval is what defines that act as morally wrong. As I mentioned a while ago about subjectivism, this suggests that moral judgments are personal experiences or personal expressions of individual approval or disapproval. For instance, two persons arguing about two types of ice cream. Since each and every person is eating different ice cream, the subjectivism, it will be personal, as I have said. Especially the person who is eating ramen rising and the person who is eating vanilla ice cream. The taste will be different because each person is eating a different ice cream. So that's all what I can share about moral subjectivism and sentimentalism. Thank you.
Alright, so biology and ethics in metaethical theory. So biology plays a significant role in metaethical theory by offering an explanation for the origins of moral beliefs and behaviors. From an evolutionary perspective, influenced by thinkers like Charles Darwin, moral traits such as cooperation, empathy, and fairness are understood as adaptations that helped humans survive and thrive in social groups. So rather than being objective truths that exist independently of us, moral values may be the result of natural selection shaping human instinct over time. Well, this view suggests that what we consider right or wrong is deeply connected to biological processes, including brain activity and emotional responses, which guide our moral judgment often before rational reflection occurs. This biological perspective supports metaethical positions like moral anti-realism, which argue that moral values are not universal or objectively true, but are instead constructed through human experience and evolution. However, it also raises important challenges. As David Hume pointed out, just because biology explains how moral beliefs arise, it does not justify what we ought to do. Additionally, if morality is rooted in evolution, it may include traits like aggression or self-interest, which complicates the idea that biological origins can fully ground ethical standards. As a result, while biology helps explain the development of moral thinking, many philosophers argue that reason and cultural reflection are still necessary to evaluate and guide ethical behavior.
Another topic is theological voluntarism. This is an ethical theory that says morality comes from God's will or commands. So basically, something is considered morally right because God commands it and wrong because God forbids it. According to this view, morality isn't decided by society, personal opinions, or human reasoning alone. Instead, moral rules come from a divine authority, and people understand what is right and wrong through religion, sacred teachings, or revelation. For example, actions like helping others or telling the truth are seen as morally good because they reflect what God commands, not just because they benefit society. So, moral behavior in this theory is closely connected to obedience to God's will. One strength of this idea is that it gives morality a clear and objective foundation, since moral laws come from a higher source. However, philosophers often question whether actions are good simply because God commands them, or whether God commands them because they are the good, which creates an important debate about where morality really comes from.
One of the meta-ethical theory is about the free will and moral responsibility. So this theory, it helps me to think about what morality really means, especially when it comes to free will and moral responsibility. So free will to me is the ability to choose between different actions, while moral responsibility means I should be held accountable to the choices that I have made. For example, if I decided to skip studying and then cheat on a test, I know I could have chosen to study instead of doing so. I would feel responsible for my own actions. In my daily life, I usually judge myself and other people in this way. In the same case, if I believe I have a real choice, then I accept the consequences that come within it. From different metaphysical perspectives, I can see how people might interpret or understand my actions in different way. If I believe in full freedom or my free will, then I would say my choices are completely up to me, and I deserve praise or blame for them. For example, if I intentionally lie to a friend, and then I will fully responsible because I made that decision on purpose. However, when I think about determinist ideas, I sometimes realize that my behavior can be influenced by things like stresses, how I was raised, or my environment that influences my own actions. For example, if I'm responsible for organizing a community cleanup and fewer volunteers suddenly showed up than expected, I might feel my responsibility is taken away. It's partly reduced because the outcome depended not only on my own planning, but also on the others who have participated in that the situation. I often find myself agreeing with the middle ground view, where free will and outside influence both play a role. In my daily experiences, I feel responsible for my own actions when I act according to my own intentions, even if those intentions were shaped by my past. For example, when I choose to help someone, I do it because I genuinely want to do it, even though my kindness may come from how I was brought up. This makes me feel that moral responsibility still applies to me because I'm acting based on what I truly want, not because I'm being forced by someone to do it. For example, like now, I'm serving the homes with the people that it just generally I do it without being forced. And that is the main that it teaches me to live out the lives daily in this moral, ethical theories, but be responsible in my friend.
Alright, so this is the end of episode 1. You've heard a lot from each of us about different method ethical theories, from moral realism to free will, and we really hope you enjoyed and you learned something. So if you want to hear more about normative ethical theory, which is another ethical theory, stay tuned for episode 2. Meko talk about ethics, truth over aesthetics. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. Welcome to the Ethics Talk Show. Meko talk about ethics, truth over aesthetics.